I think this is an untested group. They certainly have been in dress rehearsals as you speak, doing
my favorite, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which says basically that nobody who's elected
might end up being a message amendment because the President of the United States will almost assuredly veto it.
But many of you guys might believe. I don't believe that only Democrats pass bad legislation. We've messed up some things ourselves.
Most apparent here a defense of the Second Amendment, which this most certainly is.
House Democrats convene roundtable. House Democrats are fired up and they're not holding back. They're all riled up about the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Why? Because they're frustrated with how these founding documents seem to stand in the way of some serious gun law changes. They're saying, hey, these rules are getting in the path of progress. And guess who's at the helm of this whole discussion? It's Representative Jamie Raskin, leading the charge as the head of the House Oversight Committee. He's the one making sure everyone's voices are heard, especially when it comes to shaking things up with the gun laws. Now, let's talk specifics. These Democrats are pretty vocal about their dissatisfaction with how the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are sort of tying their hands when it comes to making changes in gun laws. They're calling for a serious overhaul, saying, enough is enough. Imagine a room full of passionate voices all saying, we've got to do something about this. They're pointing fingers at the gun industry lobby, the NRA, and Republicans, saying these folks are putting up a big old roadblock to much-needed reforms. They're not mincing words. They're fully set on examining what they're calling a nationwide gun emergency. It's like they're saying, we need change and we need it now.
You think of the accomplishments. I mean, I think that's what she wants to be remembered for, and they're pretty historic, whether it's on health.
I think this is an untested group. They certainly have been in dress rehearsals as you speak, doing.
But Democrats did lose seats each of the last two elections in the House, and it is time for generational change on the Democratic side. And I think that
and among moderate Republicans who looked at us and concluded.
This round table they've set up isn't just any run-of-the-mill discussion. They brought in heavyweights to the table, gun safety advocates, educators, survivors of gun violence, and even folks focused on community intervention. Can you imagine the intensity in that room? You've got members of David Hogg's March for Our Lives and educators from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, all with their stories and perspectives ready to shake things up. Representative Raskin's leading the show, making sure everyone knows this isn't just talk, it's about action. They're saying, we're tired of being turned down for formal hearings by those in charge. We're taking matters into our own hands. The passion is palpable, and these Democrats aren't backing down. They're not just pointing fingers, they're shouting for change. They're setting the stage for what could be a serious shakeup in gun laws, and they're not taking no for an answer. Criticism of constitutional constraints. Oh boy, the criticism is flying left and right, targeting some big players in the game of gun laws. House Democrats are taking direct shots at the gun industry lobby, the infamous National Rifle Association, and the Republicans, saying they're all standing in the way of much-needed reforms. It's like a showdown between those pushing for change and those barricading it. Imagine this heated debate where Democrats are saying, hey you guys, the gun industry lobby, the NRA, and the Republicans, y'all are putting up serious resistance to what we need to do. They're calling them out, saying these powerful groups are like roadblocks on the path to change. And let me tell you, they're not just sitting back and griping. They're hammering home the urgency of the situation. They're shouting from the rooftops about this so-called nationwide gun emergency. It's not just talk. They're really diving into the nitty-gritty of ongoing gun violence, painting a grim picture of what's happening across the country.
My favorite, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which says basically that nobody who's elected
are ones where, in fact, it's most likely that they should be bringing the highest and mandatory minimum.
Shall never be allowed to hold federal or state office again. So how is it possible that all of my colleagues are saying
might end up being a message amendment because the President of the United States will almost assuredly veto it?
Of course, in any event, Patrick Henry was an anti-federalist who voted against the Constitution.
Their emphasis is crystal clear. We need change and we need it now. They're not sugarcoating it. They're saying enough is enough. It's like they're waving a red flag, screaming for attention, saying, this is a crisis, folks! These Democrats are not shying away from putting the pressure on. They're pointing fingers and saying, look, the time for action is long overdue. They're not just talking about it. They're on a mission to shake up the status quo and tackle the issues head on. It's a clash of ideologies, a battle between those demanding change and those holding firm to their beliefs. But these Democrats, they're not stepping back. They're on a mission to turn the tide, to make a dent in this seemingly insurmountable issue, and boy, are they making some noise about it.
Against all of this authority, they read in invisible ink a provision into the Second Amendment.
But many of you guys might believe. I don't believe that only Democrats pass bad legislation. We've messed up some things ourselves.
By Congress. So no, the Proud Boys are not the militia.
Participants at the round table. All right, picture this round table. It's not just suits and ties debating. Nope, it's a room buzzing with diverse voices and perspectives. House Democrats didn't just invite the usual suspects. They brought in a powerhouse lineup of folks who've got serious skin in the game. First off, they've got these passionate gun safety advocates. These are the folks who live and breathe for safer gun laws. They're not holding back, sharing stories, statistics, and strategies to make things better. And then, educators stepped into the mix. Can you imagine? Teachers, principals, and educators from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School? These are the real heroes, people who've seen the devastating impact of gun violence firsthand. Their voices carry weight, believe me. But it doesn't stop there. They've got survivors of gun violence standing tall. These individuals bring a raw, unfiltered reality to the discussion. Their stories are powerful reminders of why change is absolutely essential. Oh, and here's the kicker. Members from David Hogg's March for Our Lives are in the room. These young activists are like a force of nature. They've been rallying for change since day one, and now they're right there at the round table, making sure their voices are heard loud and clear. And, wait for it, the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence has a seat at the table too. These guys have been in the trenches, advocating for sensible gun laws for ages. They're armed with data, strategies, and a whole lot of passion. But what's really striking is that they've also got representatives focused on community intervention. These are the unsung heroes, people working on the ground, trying to stop violence before it even starts. Their insights? Invaluable. Can you imagine the electricity in that room? It's like a convergence of passion, expertise, and real-life experiences. House Democrats weren't playing around. They brought in the big guns, pun intended, to make sure every angle of this issue was covered. And let me tell you, when these folks start talking, the room listens. Challenges in passing gun control measures. Oh, it's not smooth sailing at all when it comes to gun control measures. House Democrats, they're facing an uphill battle, and let me tell you, it's one tough fight. Here's the deal. These Democrats wanted to have a serious sit-down, a formal hearing to hash out these crucial gun law changes. But guess what? The Republican-controlled chambers slammed the door shut on that idea. Denied! So what did the Democrats do? They said, fine, if you won't give us a seat at the table, we'll create our own table. And that's how this roundtable discussion came to be. It's like they're saying, we're not backing down just because someone said no. But here's the kicker. Passing these anti-gun initiatives is like navigating a political obstacle course. The GOP's got a slight majority in the House, so getting everyone on board for these changes? It's like herding cats. It's tough. Really tough. And let's not forget about the Senate. They've got this rule that says you need a whopping 60 votes to get anything through. It's not a simple majority, it's a supermajority. Getting that many folks to agree on anything, especially when it comes to something as contentious as gun laws, it's like trying to knit fog.
Weapons ban is constitutional. So we know dangerous and unusual weapons are outside the scope altogether.
Figures. And this is something that we should celebrate, that today's gun owner is looking a little bit less like me and more like the rest of America.
Changed so significantly since 1791.
So, yes, just a bit, right? So dangerous.
Uphold and defend the Constitution, and he's calling me and my industry, which provides the law enforcement and the military their
finds that reasoning persuasive. The things like analogies to regulations of Bowie knives.
So here's where things get tricky. These Democrats, they've got their hearts set on these changes, but the numbers game, it's not in their favor. They're facing this big ol' hurdle, a lack of support from the opposing party, and this Senate rule that's as tough as nails. But you know what? These Democrats aren't throwing in the towel just yet. They're saying, we might not have the numbers now, but we're not giving up. They're strategizing, they're rallying support, and they're not letting a little thing like a slim majority or a challenging Senate rule stop them from pushing for what they believe is right. It's like a game of political chess, and they're in it for the long haul. Future considerations. Looking ahead, the message from these House Democrats is loud and clear. They're calling on every citizen to step up and get involved in pushing for change. They're saying, don't sit back and watch, be a part of the solution. First things first, get talking. These Democrats are encouraging folks to engage with their local and federal legislators. They're saying, pick up the phone, shoot an email, show up at town hall meetings, make your voice heard. They want citizens to advocate for these crucial changes in gun laws. It's all about making sure your representatives know where you stand on this issue. But here's the thing they're making sure everyone knows. This isn't the first rodeo for gun control measures. There have been moments in the past where both sides of the aisle have come together, holding hands and saying, yes, let's do this. They're shining a light on past bipartisan support for these measures, showing that it's possible to bridge the gap and find common ground. But, and there's always a but in politics, passing these reforms, it's no walk in the park. There are hurdles, roadblocks, and challenges aplenty. They want people to be aware that despite past support, getting these changes through is going to take a concerted effort. It's like they're saying, look, we've done it before, but it's no easy feat.
And gun violence. It was the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012 that pushed me to become an advocate.
I want to be clear, this wasn't based on violence. This is based on threats specifically to individuals, on gangs.
The appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline.
June of 2021, you changed the department's asylum rules so that it could apply to individuals with significant gang violence.
Most apparent here a defense of the Second Amendment, which this most certainly is.
So the call to action is clear. Stay engaged, keep the conversation going, and remind your legislators that this issue isn't going away. They're asking citizens to be persistent, to keep the pressure on, and to remind elected officials that the public demands action on this critical issue. It's like they're passing the baton to the public, saying, you're part of this too, your voice matters, let's push for change together. And if history has taught us anything, it's that change often starts with ordinary citizens raising their voices and demanding it. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.